How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, welcome to this week's episode of Headcases. And today's guest, I must admit, is probably one of the most recognizable faces in the North American salon industry. He's a popular platform artist and he's an educator. And I love the fact that he mixes teaching, fun, and he also adds in a little touch of irreverence. His photo work has been published worldwide and he has collaborated with hair care manufacturers such as Aveda, Revlon Professional, TIGI, Rusk, and Scruples Hair Care. He is a 2 times NAHA North American Hairstylist of the Year award winner. He is the first ever NAHA People's Choice Award winner with a career total of, catch this, 27 NAHA nominations. And he was named Canadian Mirror Awards International Hairstylist of the Year. He trained under runway hair masters Guido, Palau, Serge Normand, and Eugene Souleiman on fashion shows such as Dolce Gabbana, Prada, Miu Miu, DKNY, Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein, and Marc Jacobs. He also went on to be lead hairstylist at New York Fashion Week for designers such as Peter Somm, Jeremy Scott, Imitation of Christ, Catherine Malandrino, and many others. He's the co-founder of Denver Fashion Week, and he has also made a memorable appearance as the villain on Shear Genius 2 for Bravo TV, which aired in 22 countries. I'm sure that's a big giveaway for you. He is the founder of Beauty Underground Magazine, the Southwest Hairstyling Awards, and co-founder of the Hair USA Awards. Denver named him, a day after him. So let's get into this week's Headcase. And like the mayor of Denver, Headcases also proclaims today Charlie Price Day. Mr. Charlie Price, it is an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on here. I have to say, my friend, that we were just talking about that just before we went live here, is that I think the last time that you and I had chatted together had to be at least minimum of 4 years ago backstage at NAHA, and we were in the, I don't know, quasi green room or whatever we called it at the time, but it was a pleasure talking to you there. And what I loved about it is you always have so much concern for everybody else in our industry. So welcome, and it's great to have you on here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I can't wait. I love being interviewed. It's so much fun.
Yeah, no, we're going to have fun here. So this is one thing that I find everybody wants to know. I mean, first of all, I'm sure the majority of people in here know you, know of you, have seen you on stage, heard of you and Beauty Underground, etc. But it's always interesting to find out what's your hair story. Like, was hair always the thing that you got into? Did you get into it? Was there other jobs? What's the gig?
Well, I always told my parents that I wanted to be an architect or a famous painter, like Julian Schnabel or Basquiat or somebody, or a hairdresser. And my dad was like, you can't be a hairdresser because they're gay. And I was like, oh, this poor man. He doesn't know what he's in for.
Oh, that's too funny. You caught me by surprise on that one.
So I went in high school. I went to a vocational school in Denver, Colorado. And when we were in school, all of the big companies were in their heyday, like Redken, Matrix, Aveda, Tony and Guy, all these companies, and they would come in. And I ended up going to an Aveda class right after I got out of school. And then I worked with Aveda right away, pretty much, as soon as I got a little bit of training. And then I got a whole bunch more training from then. And I became an educator in Denver and just went all the way to the top of Aveda at the structure that they had at the time. So I left as a guest artist, which was the highest thing you could do besides being artistic director. But I knew that would probably never happen to anyone that was within the organization, and it hasn't. They would always bring people from outside, fancy
it.
European people.
Right. Right. So now, but I want to just jump back a bit. First of all, I mean, that was a meteoric rise that you had there. But was there a salon that you were in?
I was a booth renter, weirdly, at the beginning, because it was the first. Well, there's always these cycles, and there was a big cycle through in Denver of booth rent. But I was an assistant and everything for a couple of years before I became a booth renter. And then when I opened my own salon, this is all within 2 years.
Wow.
I opened a salon, and then I started working for Aveda. But
that is wild. And you, like, because I know that you were, you've had a lot of influence in the arts and everything in your community as well. Like, has that always been something that you've been drawn to?
Yeah, I had my first art show in high school, at this punk rock little place called Cafe 13. So I always have done art. And the whole reason for me being a hairdresser was creativity. Anything that I wanted to do was based on creativity. And that's still the same, because I just didn't want to be a corporate drone like my parents were. And because they weren't happy doing it, really. I mean, there were things about their jobs that they liked, but they weren't fulfilling any kind of dream or bliss or whatever cliche we want to use.
Yeah. That was it. That's interesting. So so you got that kind of got the art bug when you were in school. Like, was it, what form of art was it? Like sculpting, drawing? What was the
drawing
medium
and painting? I just posted on my Instagram today some drawings that I did it's a German art website and magazine. So if you want to see my drawings, they're on my Instagram page.
Yeah,
still doing it.
I'm going. I wish I would have went on there before this. But I would say this: if anything, guys, if you're listening or watching, go onto his website and see it, and particularly your work. Because do you find that the art background helped you when it came to the art that you create in your photographs?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the main things that I wanted to do as a hairdresser was do photo shoots of hair. That's one of the primary things, because my dad had really beautiful hair. My mom was really into her hair, and we would go to salons all the time. And it's weird because I don't have hair, and I haven't since I was about 19, but I was really into my hair, and I loved the books in the salon when you would go in and see the books. So I kind of even knew who Tony and Guy and Robert Lobetta kind of were, based on pictures I had seen just sitting, waiting for my parents to get their hair done, or while I was getting my hair done. So I always wanted to do that. Definitely creativity, more than even, I mean, I loved the salon. I thought they smelled good. The people were cool. Your job changes every 45 minutes or hour, or whatever. So I like that, but the creativity is the most important.
Yeah. And does that follow through? What do you do? To me, I find I love the creativity too, but there's times that I have to have my downtime. Is there anything that you do that's just what do you do just to either to turn it off so that you can recharge? What do you do on those moments?
Well, I guess if I need to turn off, it would be movies and magazines and it's entertainment too. I mean, everything that I do is kind of hooked together. Yeah. So it's still, if I'm unhooked from actually doing something creative, I'm probably watching or doing something that's going to give me inspiration when I go back to whatever creative thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because people always ask me if I have a hobby, and I've always said, well, my hobby is hair or anything that has to do with hair. So, and I find you could pick underwater spoon bending, or you can go and braid hair for hours on end. Right. And to me, that's my therapy. So I totally get it. Do you do that as well? I mean, I know your work, so I know how long it takes to put into one of those heads, not only for the research that you have to put into it, but actually making the piece and making it come to life. What's your, when you come up with an idea, when you're looking at new images that you're creating, what's your process?
It's kind of a storyboard thing, but I used to have, before we had our cell phone, our iPhones and everything's in there, like a Pinterest type thing. I had magazines, and I would just keep journals of things I liked, and Ray Chavello taught me how to do this thing where you throw things on the ground and you make a storyboard with them. Like, okay, these are makeup things I like, or you just take your top ones and make a line, and then you go back through and anything that goes under the line, and it creates stories. So I used to do that, but right now a story can start from anything. Like I just did a story called Spice Market that was kind of an AI thing. And it was based on just one of the prompts they have and then mixing in my photos. But I never just give the prompt that if I'm doing an AI, first of all, it has to start from a real photo
that
I've done. And then, generally there are things that I've photographed too. Those are the best ones. And then I will use some prompts and Photoshop. So it's a mixture of a bunch of different things. So nobody can tell precisely what I've done because I don't want like templates.
Right.
So things like that, Spice Market, whatever, it could be anything.
And with your art background, do you sketch it out beforehand?
Yeah. If I'm doing a proper hair collection, 100% I sketch them. I mean, for a NAHA collection or something, I always sketch them because it's so much about the composition of the photo.
Right.
Like based on how big or small the hair is or how close up, how far away, all that stuff.
You just said something else that was magical there that I think that so many people, when they're just getting into photography, don't realize, because you said how big or how small it is. And they don't realize that how when you do something in real life, how it can look super small in a photograph.
Yep.
Or how one little piece of hair that's extended, it might be a half inch from the head or an inch from the head. And you go, oh my God, that's craziness. And yet on the photograph, it disappears. And so you got to be, is there any things that you find like that you would, to help other people with a photograph, that you would say, here's a few things that you must do either beforehand or during?
It's sort of like the way that when you're doing hair on a person in front of the mirror, you have to step back from your work and look at it in the mirror. You got to do that when you're doing a photo shoot too, and stop what you're doing and look at the screen or if the person isn't tethering, you have to look at the camera, which is difficult, but to make sure you're getting the right shapes. But since the advent of having tethering, it's so much better because I would just go back and forth and really look at the picture in a bunch of different ways and decide which direction I want to go. Because sometimes it's just absolutely not working and you just you turn a corner and it's like, oh God, we can spare this, or this is so much better than what we were doing, whatever it is.
Yeah. Do you ever have I don't know about you, because I think you're way better at it than I am. But, if I was shooting for 3 looks, I would always do like 4 or 5 because I knew one was going to be absolute crap, and no matter how good I thought I wanted it, it was one turns out crap on you.
That's definitely something that I didn't always do. But yeah, it's so much better to shoot more than you need. Absolutely. Yeah. And then mix and match and see, because you don't necessarily know what you're going to like until you see them together and then it just clicks.
Right.
So yeah, definitely shoot more than you need for sure.
Have you, and I just want to jump back for a second. When you're saying tethering, you mean just like seeing your look on a screen as opposed to looking at a camera?
Where when the photographer's taking a picture or you're taking a picture, it shows up on a screen somewhere in the studio and then just going back and looking at it a lot.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do it without, although sometimes for these purists who don't like the technology piece of it, it's nice to have the Russian roulette of going back to film or not having tethering.
Right.
It's like, bareback.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I was talking, and I noticed Babek, I think he shot some of your stuff, whether it was your stuff or shot you, because I saw that on your site where you had the Babek logo underneath your picture. But I remember talking to him, and he said something that was really interesting when people are talking about Photoshop and when they're talking about that it should be eliminated or whatever. And he said something that really stuck to me. He said, why you have to have Photoshop is that if you want to get the colors or the camera will never give you exactly what you shot.
Right.
So color wise or whatever. So you have to use Photoshop to get the color in the photograph. So it is what you actually shot. So what's your take on when people talk about Photoshop and the use or not? Or
I don't have any problem with Photoshop. I love it all. And
yeah,
I recently posted something that had absolutely no Photoshop, just because some people were giving me shit about it, about AI. And because I'm so off now with my Instagram, what I do now is I'll do art, I'll do things that are fashion. There'll be no hair in the pictures at all.
yeah.
It doesn't even matter to me anymore because I'm not entering competitions really anymore. Or if I do, it's rarely. So to me, all of it is just tools. I'm creating art. I don't care what it is. But for the purity of NAHA, I mean, we would go round and round and round when I was on that committee about it. And I'm like, look, we all know the people for the most part that are using the expensive photographers, and we know what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that we all know when something's pretty much digitally created, it's pretty obvious. Or at the time when I was doing it, it was pretty obvious when it's completely computer generated. But if you look at the British Hairdressing Awards, they're totally retouched. I mean, there's so much retouching. I don't care. To me, it doesn't matter. I really don't care about it.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I think that there's it really is there's things that you can do. I mean, let's face it. I mean, when I first started in hair photography, I can remember in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, doing a collection, and my buddy was a photographer, and his name was Eugene Hattori, and his wife Judy would do all the retouching by hand, like with a paintbrush with like one or two hair. And,
so cool.
And it was just fascinating to watch. But so whether or not you were there was no Photoshop at the time, but they did it all by hand. They would take out or add in hair or it was just fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
And actually the first NAHA piece that I won with was, I believe it was the Metamorphosis one, where we had to, it was all based on the butterfly, and like that's never been done before. But the point is there's one photograph in there that I actually hand painted. She taught me how to do it. We shot it on, I think we shot it we shot it black and white. And then she showed me how to hand paint, and we actually painted everything in by hand. So that was been the same thing as using Photoshop, except it was done.
Yeah.
So
there's no such thing as, I mean, it's sort of like, where do you stop?
Yeah.
Because you can't create an image with your hands.
No.
It's a drawing. So anytime you pick up a camera, it's a machine. So like, where do you draw the line of like what's acceptable as a tool and what's not acceptable? To me, it's just a silly conversation. It's just like whatever you want to do. And if it's a competition, the key is just that it has to be judged the right way, and the rules have to be followed.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
That's all. I mean, everybody has to agree to the rules of it, and that constitutes the competition. Otherwise, none of it matters at all.
Yeah. And that gives me a great segue in here, because, so many artists that are out there that do what you do. You do seminars, you do shows, you teach, etc. But you're one of the few that actually, you actually put together shows and awards, and that encompasses all the hair and putting it together in incredible venues. You did one at an airplane hangar, and had to put all of that together. There's so few people that are out there that can get into it that deep. So first of all, number one, there's a whole series I like to chat with in here about your awards and the shows you put on. What is it like? I mean, to jump out of that and to say, I'm going to do a show at an airport hangar, and I'm going to try how to figure out how to do that on my own. What was that like?
Well, it didn't just start with that, but what happened was I loved fashion shows from the first time. I did one, which was at, in Aspen, actually, when I was like 18 years old. And that was in like 1988. And it was Gianfranco Ferré, who went on to become the first non-French person to be at a couture house. And it was right after that. And I did makeup. I didn't do hair on that particular show because there wasn't enough makeup artists, and I love doing makeup too. And I just loved the whole fashion show. And once I saw any footage of a really great world-class fashion show. I was obsessed, and I began to do fashion shows for the mall here because we got a nice mall in Denver. And so I went and begged all of the big stores to let me do hair for their fashion shows. And then ultimately I was in New York Fashion Week and all this stuff. So I wanted to produce my own shows because, as a hairdresser, we produce our own segments for hair shows all the time.
Yeah.
Because generally there isn't anyone else to do it but us.
Right.
And so it's just another discipline. I mean, I'm a frustrated fashion stylist. I'm a frustrated fashion designer. I'm a frustrated, photographer, all these things. I just like all of that, putting it all together.
So what do you do to compensate for the frustration then? Is it drink?
Yes, except I'm on blood thinners now, so I can't drink.
No, me too. Well, I'm on blood thinners, but I still drink anyway. What the hell? That's right. I'm not giving up. I figured out, I give it up. I'm drinking, instead of coffee, I'm drinking green tea. So I can deserve booze in there somewhere along the line. So when you're with your awards, do you have a team that works around with you in that? Do you have people that help you with that? How much of that is on your own?
Well, I do have a team that we create photo shoots together. The Beauty Underground team, that's pretty much all we do now, is do creative stuff together, whatever that is. Yeah. We just did a fashion show where I designed the clothes and Beauty Underground did the hair. It was at that same hangar that you were talking about, the aircraft thing, and I did not produce that show.
Oh, I thought you put that. I thought you did.
We do anything from that to, it's whatever we want to do together. It's a jam band of hairdressers and whatever we want to do. So yes, I help them, they help me. But generally, we don't enter the awards anymore because I find that I went way too far down a rabbit hole with awards. I felt like emotionally I didn't exist unless I was nominated for something every year.
Oh, interesting.
And I didn't want to become one of those people that's needy on social media that's like all they ever post is about the awards.
Right.
It's like, okay, so you're kind of like a narcissist then. Like you just talk about yourself being celebrated every minute of every day, and that's all you worry about. I'm like, maybe I am that person too, but I don't want to be, so I'm not. I'm stopping that. And it's liberated me creatively because I'm not creating through such a small prism now of like, what are judges going to like for this specific season and this specific thing? Like if I enter the International Hairdressing Awards, which I pretty much do every year, I just enter what I have, knowing that they probably won't fit whatever template that they're looking for, because and I know, and anybody in this world of awards knows that they all have their own flavor and everything kind of looks the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm really intrigued by the Beauty Underground. So where did that all come from? Where did the Beauty Underground, getting a collective together, where did that come from?
Well, it came from all of us sitting around friends, people you know very well, like Jill Lights and Ruth Roach and myself and my friends that we all worked for different product companies.
Yeah.
I actually was independent. Maybe a couple of us were independent. And we're like, okay, well, this one's too fat. This one's too sexy. I'm too gay. You're too this. You're too that. So let's just start our own design team and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't really out of even necessarily any frustration per se, but it was just about what would happen if we could just do whatever we wanted.
Wouldn't that? Yeah.
And it's gone from there. And it got really, really big, and it was way too many people and very out of control. And I didn't have enough time or resources or energy or interest in managing something that big. So we shut it down for a minute and then relaunched with a lot less people.
Yeah. And so do you guys meet regularly? Do you just say, like, what's the process that you guys go through?
Well, two of the people that started it with me are two of my best friends. One's named Sharina Hansen. She works for Davines. Yeah. And we were working on New York Fashion Week together for like over 20 years. And then another one is Katie Nielsen, who I met at Scruples. And so I talk to them every day or text them every day. We were just texting before I got on here. And then other people I don't talk to for months. Yeah. So it just, but we kind of come together whenever we want.
That's a cool thing. So it's not a mandated thing.
Nope. Because we don't, it's like anybody can work for a product line or not, or whatever. And it just doesn't matter. It's non-denominational.
Yeah. Just so long as you're creative and fit the jam.
It helps though if you're a serial killer. I like to work with serial killers.
Don't walk in the woods with them, no.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's jump into like so you did that. And I'm trying to remember the year because I remember the first time that you put out the magazine,
Yeah.
the Beauty Underground. I mean, that's a serious undertaking. So how did it come about?
Well, it goes back to my desire at the very beginning to become a hairdresser. Was I loved magazines. I'm obsessed with magazines. I still have a collection of magazines at my garage. And we thought, what would happen if we had a magazine where people could just put whatever they wanted in there, with no ads? You can just put whatever you want. It can be nudity, it can be smoking, it can be fur. We obviously no racism, no, violence against women or children or whatever, nothing immoral in that sense, but freedom to just express. And it sort of became a yearbook, kind of, because it looked more like an art book than a magazine. And so that was really fun. It's a lot of work. It didn't cost me tons of money, but it cost me a little bit of money. I used to do 2 a year.
Yeah.
And I mean, Christopher Benson is doing this now. The same thing with his thing called Collective Ink. It's fun. I mean, I loved it. I may bring it back. I needed, Beauty Underground, I needed to stop everything for a while. It was taking over my life. We had scissors and we never meant to even, it wasn't like we were going to try to be Hikari or somebody or, Mizutani. It wasn't like that. It was just like, oh, this is fun to have some merch.
Yeah.
We had backpacks because one of the women that was in the Beauty Underground, her husband used to work for Toomey. So he made us these beautiful backpacks. But I'm like, I don't want to have inventory of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go to these shows and hawk this stuff. I mean, I got out of that for a reason. Yeah. So we just had to have a reboot.
What I found was interesting. And you know what? Here's the weirdest part. I was looking through the magazines, and I think the magazine I went, I think it was one of the earlier magazines you had in the digital ones. And you know what? Until you said it right now, I didn't realize that there was no adverts in there. It was just page after page after page of fashion and hair and makeup, etc. But what did strike me was I was leafing through them, and there must have been 190 pages that you had of hair in that one magazine, and I kept thinking, talk about getting value for your money. I thought it was that was so much work, such a body of work into one magazine. I was going, no wonder you only do 1 or 2 of those a year.
One of the reasons I only did 2 a year too is because I would stalk people on Instagram who are famous in other countries, and I really wanted to have as much international representation as possible. So, I would chase them down until they finally let me publish them in our magazine, so that it was really high quality and lots of different styles and points of view. Yeah. And, of course, I had my old favorites that I wanted, like Damian Carney or Ruth or Shirley Gordon or whoever it was, and asked them to send me stuff regularly. But I was always tracking down the next person that I was interested in.
Yeah. I love it. That you just reminded me of a saying that that we had one person that was on the podcast, and they contacted me and they said, "You're going to be my new best friend, whether you like it or not." That's kind of what I came to my brain when you were stalking people, saying, "This is I want you in my magazine. I'm not going to leave you alone until you give them to me." That's awesome. So do you I looked at a lot of your work on Instagram in the last while, and a lot of it is based around what I was thinking is it's in a living room or it's in a house, etc. Is that your place that you shoot in? Do you have a studio that you bring in stuff?
I used to have a photo studio. It was my dream space. After I stopped owning salons, I worked because we were traveling a lot with Beauty Underground. And so I was working very part-time in a booth rent salon. And I put feelers out to all my friends. And I said, if you guys know of anybody who owns an industrial building and a client that I could rent out of the back, I could have a garage door or whatever. And I found a place that used to be an old photo studio. And that was amazing. We used to do so many things there. And then they shut it down to build a school there, which is kind of crazy. But then COVID happened. So I have the salon in my house. So now the salon is my studio. A lot of it is in the house or in my garage or around my house if we're outside, because it's easier. I have like probably 400 outfits. I have so many things, and it's all now in my garage because I don't have a wardrobe closet like I did at the studio. And I had to get rid of a lot of it. I got rid of a whole dumpster full of stuff.
Wow.
Right before COVID, because I had to vacate the space. But I still have quite a lot.
I bet we have something in common. I have this love-hate relationship. I hate paying for something that I'm not using. I hate working in a small, cramped box. Yet, I love working in a cool salon that impresses my clients, and I love the culture and synergy of a team while enjoying the freedom of being my own boss. You too? What if all that was available to you at the salon you rent from? Meet Artist on Go, a game-changing way to rent salon space. With Artist on Go, you only pay for the time you're behind the chair. You can choose a salon that fits your vibe, location, and amenities. With Artist on Go, you're a part of a stylist community, not hustling alone. Plus, you get to enjoy perks like clean towels and back bar supplies. Check out Artist on Go, built for stylists serious about their clients and growing their brand without the hassles of managing a space. Here's the kicker. You can save more than 50% on your rent. To find out more, go to bit.ly/artistongocb. That's bit.ly/artistongocb. Yeah. So do you, like your connection to sell? So anybody that's listening and they say, I want to be like Charlie one day. I want to be able to shoot the stuff as I need it. What's your connection that you have? Like, do you have connections with a modeling house because Denver's got a lot of great models, et cetera. So, how do you get the connection with the models, and how often do you shoot?
Well, what has happened for me is I started way back, like I said, with the mall. And I got involved in a modeling agency, a few of them, and I was doing hair for free for their models to trade. Yeah. And so I've just really worked hard to stay connected to the scene here in Denver. I would not call it an industry. We don't have a fashion industry in Denver, Colorado. Not that it's bad. We just don't. If we do have an industry, it's like sports clothes and skiing, So, but I've taken pains to make myself available and known and network with people, whether it's photographers or boutique owners or models. And I was one of the founders of Denver Fashion Week, and I never liked that name. I begged him not to call it Fashion Week, but he called it whatever. Now everybody has a Fashion Week in the world, but that got really big, and I stopped working with them, but I met tons of people then. So I have a lot of connections with, my favorite are people that are wild, that like wild hair and are, I do work with proper professional models when the occasion calls for it, but I have a sort of, they become your friends. I have a bunch of wild girls that I like to do their hair for free, and they're just my friends. And we go to dinner and have wine after and whatever. And we do a shoot, So yeah, it's like a little, clique or whatever of people. And I think that's very natural for a lot of hairdressers anyway. Yeah. So probably the same as most people, but the difference is I really have worked on perpetuating it because I produce a lot of pictures. Yeah. If you said I produce a lot of pictures, and there's somebody else that might be out there saying, well, I produce a lot of pictures too, because I produce 6 or 7, shoots a year, et cetera. But you do a hell of a lot more than that. So how often are you shooting, and what brings them on? At least once a month, and there's times when I'll shoot like 3 times a month. But what I've been doing with the friends at Beauty Underground is I say, and we also have Ebony Underground too, which is my colleagues that I was trained by a Black hairstylist and a Latino hairstylist. And the guy that trained me that's Black is still one of my best friends now. And he started Ebony Underground, which is focusing on Black hair.
Yeah.
And so we're always doing shoots with all of us. And he lives in Denver still too. So we do a creative week. So I try to get everybody together and we shoot for like 5 days straight.
Wow.
That happens usually twice a year, but I'll shoot. I shoot at least once or twice a month.
Wow.
But what I've been doing lately is because I've been into photography is I go back to my archive and I change things with Photoshop, and it becomes more about art and less about actually producing a fresh shoot for a hairstyle or an outfit. That's really fun to me now, as creating it more of like an art thing as opposed to like something that I'm using for the hair industry in any way.
So do you do your own photography?
I have some friends that are photographers that I absolutely love working with because I can focus on just doing the hair. I love that. It's very luxurious to me, but I'm really into doing photography and I do it all on my iPhone.
Oh, really?
Everything's on my iPhone. I have started buying lights and I'm focusing more on the light now and stuff, but yeah, I do it all with my iPhone.
That's wild. That is absolutely crazy. When you figure out how many people have got like $100,000 camera and all the light systems, et cetera, and you're doing this and you're getting this a similar quality with your iPhone. That's craziness.
I mean, don't ask the photographers. They will say, no, it's not as good. But I don't know. I just had an art show this summer with my iPhone pictures and we blew them up to be like 3 feet by 4 feet and they looked pretty good to me. Yeah.
Well, I can honestly say I don't think I have any of that with my stuff. So I take my hat off to you on that one. That's absolutely wild. I don't know if I should ask you for permission if I can go here, but
you can ask me anything.
Okay, good. So what Shear Genius too? I'm sure you get a lot of people asking you about that. But number one, what was it like?
I loved every second of it. Even when I hated it, I loved it. It was the most fun I think I've ever had.
What did you hate about it?
I hated stupid challenges, like where they made me do a dog's hair and I was supposed to make the person look like a dog. I thought it was kind of demeaning and they sabotage you. Like, for instance, I got a male dog that was white and it was like a Latina lady. And I'm like, well, they're not anything alike. So I made them like a couple. It's just dumb. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Stuff like that made me mad. Or like where, we would do the challenge and they would stop it. And then the models would be waiting for 3 hours and be outside in the wind smoking and their hair's torn up and they only give you like 2 minutes to fix it.
Wow.
Stuff like that pissed me off.
So they would purposely sabotage to get the emotions going.
Anything to make you off guard, upset, uncomfortable, frazzled.
Yeah. Sort of like hairdressing big brothers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, what do you think when in the reality shows did you feel you were cast to be a part on there? Do they cast people? They figure this person's going to be this genre or this person or this. Here's the hero. Here's the heroine. Here's the villain. I know you self-admittedly said that you were cast as not cast as, but seen as the villain on there. Is that?
I cast myself as the villain.
Oh.
I said to them, and when they were casting me, if I'm not the villain, I don't want to be on the show.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Because I loved Tabitha.
Say? Yeah.
She was season 1, and I was like, I'm the Tabitha, or I don't want to be on the show.
Oh, cool.
Except I was too scary, so people didn't like me as much as they liked Tabitha. They loved her and were scared of me.
Oh, really? When you say they, do you mean the audience or do you mean the contestants?
I got a lot of crazy reactions. Listen, I went on this show for a very specific reason, and it was perfect for what I wanted it for, which was to get out from Aveda. I had just quit Aveda, and I wanted to move into the just mainstream, which I already had done a little bit, but I wanted to blow up my profile in hairdressing circles at the big trade shows, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
And reinvent myself like Madonna.
Yeah. Who you love, right?
Yeah, but she's I don't like what she's doing now. I'll love her always, but she's a train wreck to me right now.
Who do you love now?
I'm trying not to be an old gay and just stick with the people from my generation. So I love Billie Eilish. I
Yeah.
love, God, now I'm not going to think of who I love right now. Olivia Rodrigo. I love, I'll probably think of it the minute we change the subject.
Of course.
But I try to always find new people that I love. I like, who is it that Miley Cyrus. I always say when there's a new ingenue or singer, like when they discover high fashion is when I will absolutely love them. Yeah. So Miley, I liked her when she was in her pizza phase and sticking out her tongue. But now I think she's amazing. Well, but, she's probably not even considered new anymore. And I try to get the newest people possible. But the problem is I'm on Pandora and I don't always look at who they are.
Right.
So I'll put on like Billie Eilish Station or whatever, and there's all these people, but I don't generally know who they are. But I just think it's like kind of, and I'm very guilty of this. So I do the same thing that bothers me. I go back to the same well of music all the time, and I'm trying to just have new music too. But style icons, I love all those girls that I mentioned, and I love Lenny Kravitz still.
Oh yeah,
Lenny Kravitz to me is like perfect. Yeah, amazing style, music, everything.
Does music?
But he's 60, so I mean,
well, but he looks 40. So I know that art is really inspires you. Does music have any influence on you in what you create?
I can't do a photo shoot without music going. So I put the music that goes with the shoot that we're doing.
Interesting.
So if it's goth or if it's electronic or if it's whatever it is, it has to fit. Heavy metal, whatever. Heavy metal, I mean, it's a little hard to work to heavy metal. It's a little crazy, but
well, especially for an extended period of time.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I'm sure there's. This is one. I mean, I think this is a kind of a difficult question, but I don't think so for you. Because when you're on stage all the time or doing photographs, etc., you acquire fans, and then if we had to go up to one of your fans and say, "Tell us about Charlie," what would they say?
They would say, I tell it like it is, and I say things that most people are scared to say.
Ah, interesting. So just speaking your mind or saying, here's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have I can be very diplomatic when I want to be, but I can also be brutally frank. Like my idols are Joan Rivers, Sarah Silverman, and Sandra Bernhardt. Very caustic Jewish comedians. Yeah. So I'm the gay male version of that, the goy version of that, non-Jewish.
Yeah. It's interesting though, how, I think that being Canadian, sarcasm is really big in our culture as well.
But it's gentle. You guys aren't mean like we are. Oh, Americans are so much meaner.
Yeah, well, I think that's the part is we call it taking the piss. Yes. And you only take the piss out of people that you really like. But I would never say, Charlie, I love you, man. But if somebody's your friend, you just bug the hell out of them. Yeah. And you're always taking.
That's fun.
Yeah. So that's one thing I do find and hear. But don't you find it's different from one coast to the other? Like if you're going to go to the East Coast, at least, and it might be just my Canadianism showing here, but you go to the East Coast and you go to New York, and they either won't talk to you or whatever, but you go to LA or whatever, and people always talk to you, but it doesn't mean that you're gonna be homeboys with them.
Yes, everybody. Yeah, we definitely are regional. Yeah. And I'm definitely a citizen of the West. Although people never look at maps and they don't know where Colorado is. So sometimes they think it's the Midwest, but it absolutely is not the Midwest. We're one state away from Mexico and one from California.
And you're right above me. Yeah. In Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. So Yes. I mean, yes, it's true. But the thing about New Yorkers being not nice, I think it's the opposite. I think people in LA are meaner and people in New York are nicer.
Yeah. Somebody told me the other day, they said that you're, how did they put it? That if you go to New York, because everybody was saying that people aren't nice in New York. They are, but they're just in a hurry. But the way that this person put it, and I'm going to mess this up, but they said, if you go to New York, people are, they're not necessarily nice, but they're kind. Meaning that you're not going to stop and just run around, but if somebody stops you, you'll help somebody till the end of the earth. But if you go to their words, not mine, is that in LA or et cetera, if you go the more west you go, that people will say, we got to get together, we'll all do this, but that they have no intention of ever getting it together with you. It's just things to say as opposed to.
That's true.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't think Denver's I love Denver, and I don't mean to talk badly about my hometown, but I don't think it's a friendly city.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
That's funny.
I mean, we're kind of like crazy Wild West here. Like anything goes. We were the first ones to have pot. Yeah. And we're very schizophrenic, you know, like politically, it's very right wing on one side of the mountains and very much more liberal on the east side of the mountains where I live. And, you know, we seem to be connected to every hot button thing that happens, whether it's school shootings or we invented cable TV here in Denver, like all kinds of weird things. But I would say that it's not a warm, friendly walk down the street and say hi to everybody kind of place.
Got it. I guess my experience is just like this. I've never spent a lot of time in Denver other than maybe doing a show and then leaving town. But people that I know, like you and Jill and other people that I know from that Denver area are always really nice people that will sit down and have a great conversation with you. So that's my kind of take on it, not having to live in there.
We're not overtly friendly, like in the grocery store, or it's not like in the South where they're like, hi, y'all, say hi to your mama. I'll see you at church. We're like, I don't even know my neighbors. I don't know their names.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about you and your growth. I talk to a lot of people on this, in this podcast, and the one thing that always comes up is about imposter syndrome. Do you ever suffer from that?
I think everybody should suffer from imposter syndrome, because if you don't, you're a sociopath.
Yeah. Interesting.
There's something about this now, this whole movement of like imposter syndrome and anxiety. And of course, we have a mental health epidemic, and it can be connected to social media and all kinds of other stuff. But just, anxiety is good because it lets you know something's wrong and you can adjust it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like your body's alarm for something being wrong. And imposter syndrome is good because you should be nervous sometimes, or, you should feel, and I don't want to say inadequate, but if you're just completely supremely confident, you're probably kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
That's how they describe people that are overly confident. It's like cocky, arrogant asshole. Yeah. So having imposter syndrome, but also people use it as a way to fish for compliments too.
Yeah, true.
And I can't deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true, because really imposter syndrome is feeling that you're a fraud on occasion and so on.
Right.
But it's sometimes interesting that people will speak negatively about themselves just so that other people will bolster them back up again. So it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What pushes you?
Right now, I'm 55. I've been doing hair for almost 40 years. So right now, what I want to do is I want to be liberated in my creativity, and I have paid my dues. So now I just want to do things that I really, really enjoy, and travel and spend time with my family and my spouse, and spend time in my house. Yeah. I don't want to push too hard. Yeah. I want to enjoy my life before I'm really old, because I do want to live to be really old. So I want to have a long time of having fun.
Yeah, good. I like that. I'm going to write that down and I'm going to adopt that. But to that, and a lot of times on this, I want to make sure that people know that people like you that have risen to the top of the game, that it wasn't always fun and roses, because I always feel that everybody looks at people that have made it in our industry and they think, oh, it must have been easy. They rose to the top. They've got all the things on their side. Everything happened. It'll never happen to me. But was there difficult times in your rise up? Was there things that hit you and were tough on you on the rise?
So many things. I will say not so much in the salon. I didn't find the salon life particularly challenging, other than just to get good skill wise and to learn how to talk to people and stuff like that. But that was, kind of fun. I really hated managing people when I owned salons. I really hated it. And I don't think I was a very good manager. I think I created a lot of really great opportunities for people, and I gave them an opportunity to make a lot of money, which most of them didn't take advantage of. But things that happened to me outside of the salon were much harder. Like doing New York Fashion Week was really, really brutal. The people would expect things but not communicate. Were just not nice. Like very, very mean. I just would say mean. And it's okay. I mean, I still would go. I mean, I really cherish those experiences of working backstage on really major fashion shows. And I did it for many years. But even when I was the lead, not assisting, working with fashion designers and sponsoring shows was really difficult. It's not a nice world. The fashion world is very beyond bitchy. Like just really abusive. I would call it abusive. Yeah. I just wanted it so bad that I'm like, you can't hurt me. But they did. But I don't. But I don't like want to be a victim or act like I was traumatized. I wouldn't call it trauma, because I kept going back. Yeah. Yeah. But I could tell you stories, and I think I've been treated pretty poorly by a lot of people in the industry. Some of the best of them have treated me like shit. So I got really strong from it.
Strong is like thick skin.
I don't know if I would have thick skin, but I could survive it, I guess is what I would say. Because it always, whenever you're treated poorly by somebody, it hurts. Yeah. But I was like, I would not give them the satisfaction of destroying me.
Yeah, or seeing you hurt.
Yeah, and also I would say really hard thing in the hair industry for me was the abuse of gay people in the higher end of product world and distribution and stuff. There's a lot of really not nice straight men. Yeah. Religious right-wing straight men that don't like gay people, and they let you know it.
Well, that's sad.
And I don't like that. And I let them know I didn't like it.
Well,
and so
good
we didn't,
for you.
That's why I can never work at corporations. I don't deal with anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it's just sad, especially now. There's such a turnaround with that right now as well, that people are
sort of.
Yeah, well,
sort of, kind of.
Let's hope it's a beginning then, right?
It's weird because it's like in a small world.
Yeah,
it's like in the larger sense. Yes, it's super. I mean, Ulta's got people in drag on their stages and in Instagram, and totally, they're all gay all the time, but they're not necessarily running the companies now. I mean, like Shane at Aveda is gay, and then there's lots of like Ruben Carranza, one of the big executives of all time of the hair industry, is gay. So there's gay people around. Yeah. But I don't know, corporate, whether they're gay or not, corporate people, and I'm not referring to those two people, but corporations by the nature want to control people because they want to control their product. Right. So it's not all bad. I don't mean every corporation is bad. So I want to be clear. When I say that, I loved my relationship working at a lot of people in the networks that were nasty. Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully it'll sooner or later, everything will kind of even out, where I just think that, when they had that, you have the people that are negative in that way. And then people that are good within the organization try to make it. So here we're going to make some inroads, and eventually it's got to even out. It might take, well, hopefully it's not going to take decades, but whether it's years or whatever, you've got to have a change of mindset where people are just much more open and willing and accepting. There'll always be people that are picked on. I mean, that's just human nature. There's always going to be somebody. And the left people, I get in trouble with the liberals all the time because we're not a monolith. And if I don't agree with something, I say I don't agree with it. And then they get really mad at me. So I don't really care. I don't care about them either. I think what I think, and that's it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's what the world needs more of, is just people telling them what do they think rather than just agreeing with everything.
Yeah.
So,
but also not fighting. I don't really want to fight with people either. I'm tired of that too. Social media and stuff, fighting is just really boring now.
Well, wouldn't you agree that's the one thing about social media, et cetera, or anytime that you don't have a direct face-to-face contact with somebody, that's where you can get that passive aggressiveness just comes out, and everybody just feels that they can say anything that they want to, just because there's no repercussion, you know. Yes. So that's the downside of what I see in there. But there's lots of that. That's
why I just block people. I'm definitely I believe in blocking.
Yeah, and there's been lots of that lately. Believe me. Right. Jeez. Anyway, we're at kind of this rapid fire segment, and I have to say this has been just 2 tons of fun on here.
Yes.
But on this, quick questions, quick answers. What turns you on in the creative process?
Creating an image.
And what stifles the creativity?
Not being prepared.
In life in general, what do you love the most?
Honesty.
And what do you dislike the most?
Bigotry.
What's the thing that you love most about our industry?
Creativity.
And what do you dislike about it?
Salon suites.
A person that you admire the most?
Probably my husband.
Most prized possession?
My health.
A person you wish you could meet?
Barack Obama.
We're putting that out there now.
Yeah,
because I know when Barack Obama listens to my podcast,
and he has a lot of free time now.
Yes, he does. Yes. Something that people don't know about you.
That I'm nice.
There you go. I could have told him that. A month off, where would you go and what would you do?
I would go to Europe and just eat and rest and take a lot of pictures.
Love it. Something you're terrified of?
Heights.
Me too. Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Favorite comfort food?
Spaghetti.
Something in the industry that you haven't done, but you want to?
I more collaborations just with people that I haven't collaborated with.
Love it. If you had one do-over, one thing you could change, do it over again, what would that be?
Nothing.
Love it. Tomorrow, you couldn't do hair or anything to do with the hair industry. What would you do?
Photography.
So I've got one more question for you. But I just wanted to say this firstly is that it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the program. Next time that I'm in Denver, we're going to have a cocktail together and take this a lot deeper. But for those people that are listening and watching right now, if you guys, we'd love it if you guys could, whatever medium that you're on, if you could just give us a comment or a like, or even better still, subscribe to it, just so we can get more people more connection that can get to incredible podcasts, just like we had with Mr. Charlie that's on here right now. And last thing, Charlie, if you had one wish for our industry, what would it be?
I want people to understand that they have the power. Hairdressers have the power. No one else. It's not, we love product companies. We love all of that. I love products, but we have the power. The hairdresser has the power.
Love it. Charlie, it's been a real blast on here. I love it. I love that you have that bit of irreverence about you and that you are a kind person as well. So thank you so much for being on here.
It was so much fun.
Thank you. Headcases is produced by Cut Action Media with Marjorie Phillips doing the planning parts, Lee Baran on the video bits, and Adrian Taverner mixing the audio jazz.